All right. Hello to who's ever watching. Today we're going to be talking about how to assemble a fishing rod and put line on it. So, if you don't know anything about fishing, well, you're in the right place. So here we have a fishing rod. This is a bass rod. It's a longer one. It's got a carbon fiber tip. Not really relevant for what we're talking about today. But this is just a rod. As you can see, it's taller than me. It's probably about I don't know, 6'5", 6'4", I don't know. It's a good length rod. You don't need to have one this long, or you can have one longer. For the purposes of this video, we're mostly going to be focusing on this, which is the reel, and this is what you put the line on. And yeah, so basically what we're going to be covering in this video is putting the reel on the rod. So it's going to go right there. I'm going to show you closer how it goes on and stuff like that. And then you're going to be putting the line, which is your fishing line, which is this stuff, and I'll get into it in a little bit, more about the line. But you're going to put the line on the reel once it's on the rod, and then we're going to be feeding the line through the rod, and I'll show you how to put your lure or your bait on, depending on what type of fish you're doing or just your personal preference. So yeah, we'll get into that. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is put the reel on the rod. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to disassemble the rod because we don't need most of this extra part. We're just going to be focusing on this. This is just the top part. Set that aside. We're going to be focusing on the main part of the rod here. So this is the grip, and this is the adjustment knob where you're going to be putting the reel. And then this is your first where you put the line. I don't know what this is called, like ring, eye. Doesn't matter. But specifically, we're going to be focusing on this part. So here we have a left-hand reel, or a left-hand spin reel. So what that means is the reel is going to be sitting underneath of the fishing rod like this. And you're going to be holding the rod with your right hand, and you're going to be using your left hand to spin the reel. So like spin this. And then that's what's going to create the spinning sensation that draws the line back in. So you're gonna cast out, and we can get into that in a later video or later today. You're gonna cast out, and then you're gonna be reeling it in by spinning it like this, and that's gonna retract the line in. So that's the motion that you're gonna be wanting to do there. So yeah, so step one is pretty simple. You're gonna just put the reel on the rod. So this is the top of the rod. As you can see, it says Ugly Stik. This is all the branding stuff right there. And this is a little adjustment piece that spins and it goes up and down so you can fit different reels on. But all you do is you're going to put the reel in like this and then slide it down into the slot like this. And then you're just going to bring this knob piece down. You're going to spin it so it goes on top of the reel and locks the reel onto your rod. And then you're going to want to spin it pretty tight. You don't have to be crazy tight, but you do want it to pretty tight. So there. So now the reel is locked onto the rod, and you can do that in order to use it. So you have your fishing rod, you got your reel on. You need a line. That's the most important thing. If you don't have a line, useless. So we're going to get into that now. Now that you have your reel ready to go, you have your line handy, ready to go. You're going to open your bail. This is very important that you do this. Open the bail like this. Okay, so now that you have your knot on, take as much of the extraneous end as you can. Not the end that's attached to the line, but the extraneous end. Chop it off. And you're just about ready to go. So, another thing that I recommend, let me just make sure that we're good. Yeah, we're chilling. Okay. Another thing that I recommend, this is kind of nasty, take a little saliva and press it down onto the knot. This will soften up the line, and it's going to make it so the knot sits flatter against the reel, doesn't disturb how the line sits onto your reel, because you want it as flat as possible. Obviously, especially with this like 30-pound line, it's a lot thicker, so it's going to disturb it, but anything that you can do to make it sit flatter, I highly recommend. In this case, it's going to be press my spit onto it so that it sits flatter, doesn't disturb how it spools onto the reel. So then the next part's pretty easy. You just have to make sure that you keep the line tight as tight as possible. So next you're going to close the bail. That's going to close the line on top of it. And next, all you're really going to do is reel. So this part's, I mean, it's simple in that all you do is this, but you just need to make sure that, exactly, so like that. So see how it went around the reel? You have to make sure that it doesn't do that, and that it stays as you hold the line as tight as possible. So you want it against the reel. So, I mean, yeah, basically you're just gonna do this, but you just have to make sure, see how it's spooling around the reel? Make sure it stays on the reel and that you keep it as tight as possible, so that way it's lined tightly onto the reel. I'm just gonna go slow for here to demonstrate how this works. That's basically all it is. And yeah, so you see how it's spooling onto the reel. And you can go as fast as you want. I'm just going slow for the purpose of the video, but yeah, just like that. So it spools itself onto the reel nice and tightly. And it actually helps them using the green line, because you can really see the difference between the reel and the monofilament. Yeah. But yeah, feel free to go at your own pace. I'm just going slow for the video. You can even go faster as long as you're keeping a tight hold on the line. It's gonna spool nicely against the reel. So yeah. So once you have as much line as you want, I recommend maybe about that much. You could probably go a little bit more, honestly. You can fill it up as much as you want, but I mean, this is pretty good. Especially now that you know how to do this, especially if you're doing this like on the fly without a kit, it's really gonna be fine if you want to add more line. So yeah, that's a good amount right there. Maybe don't fill it all the way, because it's gonna come unspooled pretty easily if you don't leave at least a little bit of a margin there for it to kind of stay in there. So the next thing you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to cut it. So, and just make sure that it's just basically just take your knife and just do that. That's gonna keep the end off, and then you're gonna have this, and if you did it right, it's gonna be locked. It's gonna be locked like this, so you can't pull it unless you open the bail. So the next thing that we're gonna be getting into is I'm gonna show you how to line the rod, which is easy. If you've gotten this far, you're basically all the way there. That's the hardest part, is basically just making sure the knot's on there right. Another example is, you see how it's getting unspooled a little bit here? Yeah, you want to make sure that it's tight. I don't know if you could see that, but it came off the reel a little bit. That's okay, because I can tell it's at the end, but yeah, that's what we want. So next, I'm just gonna keep a hold on this. I'm gonna attach the rest of the rod, because we're gonna be lining it. And basically what you're gonna be doing now is, you're gonna open the bail, and that's gonna allow for line to come off. This is a little bit tricky, but yeah, basically you're gonna want line to come off. You don't want it to pop off the reel as aggressively as it did there, but that's basically the premise. But we can fix that. That's not a big deal. You're gonna want to line it through all the holes, just like this. So yeah, just see so I'm just gonna lower it. So putting through every hole like this. Yeah. See if I can get it lower so you can really see. I'm just making sure it's going through every individual hole. You want to make sure it's through every hole. And then you want to give it some slack, because I'm going to go into how to put the lure on next. So then you're going to want to close your bail and then just pull it tight. So the bail should auto, if you set the bail up rightly, or the reel up, it should auto lock at a certain point like that. So see, I'm pulling on it, but it's not letting any more line out because I closed the bail. So the bail is completely closed, as you can see, but we have all this line out, and it's all the way through the rod, and it's all the way down here. I got plenty of line. I got more than I need. So I got more than I need. This is a perfect example of what your reel is going to be doing. So you got more line than you need. Now what you're going to do, because you don't need that much to set up, it's around here, to set up a lure and put a bait on, or a hook, or whatever you're going to be putting on. So you can literally just reel it in like that. See how it's spooling, it's self-spooling like that around the reel. So it's retracting itself. And yeah, it's going to be easier. It's kind of weird because there's no weight on it right now. So if you have weight or something on the end of it, it'll create auto tension. So you won't have to hold it right here. It'll automatically pull the line flat like this so it spools nice onto your reel. But yeah, so now you have a proper amount of line on it. So this is more like what you're going to want to work with when you're tying up a lure. So the next step is going to be putting whatever you want on. So I'm going to be showing you how to put my preferred bass setup on. I'm going to show you what to use and how to do it. So yeah. So I'm just going to pull this tight like that. And I will demonstrate to you how to put it on. So, my go-to lure for bass is something called a jerkbait or a crankbait. And this is for smallmouth, but for largemouth too. I've caught largemouth with these. I've caught all sorts of different fish with these. This is my favorite lure ever, are these things. You can get these for like cents on Amazon. They're basically just little plastic things with like beads inside that shake. And they got these 2 treble hooks that sink down. So 6 hooks on the lure overall. And then you have the little eye here, which is where you're going to be attaching it to your line. So that's step 1. So step 1 is going to be picking the lure. Step 2 is going to be putting on the line. So it's pretty simple, honestly. All you do, you're going to take your line. You're going to feed it through your eye here, just like so. And now we're going to be actually using, I have a preferred knot for this. For the reel, you can use whatever knot you want. But for this, I do have a preferred knot, so this is probably the easiest for you. So you're going to pull it about that much, and then you're going to take this part, and you're just going to wrap it around. And you probably should wrap it around about 10 times, at least, I would say. Or like 8 to 10 times, because that'll create the strongest knot. Granted, this is thicker line, so I'm not going to be able to do this as many times. Nobody would do like 12, honestly. But 8 to 9 will do for now. And you're just going to take the end, and you should have created a little eye here. All you're going to do is put it through the eye, and then you're just going to pull it tight. Now, it's tough to do with this harder line, with this thicker line, but you can still do it. You just pull it tight, really pull it down to your eye. And it's a little finicky, but it's all right. Once you get it, it's a little tricky to explain how I pull it down to the line, but you just want to keep kind of doing that, keep working it. And if you do it right, it's going to end up looking something like that, but you just really want to crimp it down so that it's really tight onto the eye. And you want to make it as small as possible. It's not going to be too small because we're using 30-pound line for this example, but if you're using like 10 or 15, which is plenty, it's going to be a lot smaller line. It's going to be a lot smaller knot. Yeah, basically that's pretty good. And that's not going anywhere. So then you're going to have your line. This is what's connected to your rod. And this side, my right hand, it was on your left side of the screen, we can just cut off. So take your knife or whatever and chop it off, whatever you want to do it. Trying to be safe like that. Don't leave anything more than that on there. And now that's not going anywhere. But if you can't tell in the video, this is pretty, oh, it looks at me. It's pretty lightweight. So you might want to add like a weight or something. Typically, these actually weren't designed to be used with weights. This is just my personal thing because it allows you to cast it out further and it sinks down a little bit so you can get down into the water. Because this will not necessarily float, but it will kind of float. And this little lip here will make it dive down and kind of do that. But if you have a weight on, it's going to kind of do this under the water and do this a lot, which is what I prefer and what I like for smallmouth bass. So with a weight, we're not actually going to use a weight. We're going to use something called a split shot. So a split shot is basically a piece of lead, or, you know, I don't know if they use lead anymore, but I have lead ones. Or like just a piece of tin, basically. I prefer the lead ones because they're heavier, but tin is probably what you're going to find at a store. I don't know if lead's legal, but you take that and you can use your pair of pliers to crimp it on the line, but I just bite on it. Like that. And that's going to attach to the line. See, that's not going anywhere. You know, it's now on the line, and you want it about that. So when it's all said and done, you have your lure and your weight on, and if you reel it, it's going to bring it closer to the tip, and that's max point. And then if you want to drop it, you just, the split shot fell off, but it's okay. That's not the point. I just didn't put it on all the way. Drop it down like this just by opening the bail. And the same thing, if you want to do it up, you just, whoop, just like that. So yeah, that's pretty much the video. So yeah, that's the video. If you have any more questions, there's going to be other parts to this. There's going to be a frequently asked guide as well as an instruction manual that's going to help you more step by step and show you like still photos of the different knots and how I did it. And yeah, so thanks for watching and have a good rest of your day.